Hello to my family, friends, and fellow lovers of food, language, culture, and travel. Xin chào gia đình, bạn bè và những người yêu thích ẩm thực, ngôn ngữ, văn hóa và du lịch của tôi. My name's Sean, and this is going to be my first social media platform. And before I get into why I wanted to do this social media, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself, which kind of gives the background for why I'm doing this. So I was born and raised in California. And then after high school, at 17 years old, I joined the US Navy. While I was in the Navy, I got to travel all around, but mostly I was stationed in Japan. So 2 years in Yokota near Tokyo, and then another 3 years in Yokosuka. When I came back to the US after my time in the military, I kind of realized that the United States wasn't really where I felt like I belonged anymore. It didn't feel like home. And so that's why I decided I needed to find a way to go back abroad. So at first I started working in restaurants. So I was a chef for about 13 years. And I worked in all types of restaurants. And then I decided that that's not really what I wanted to keep doing for the rest of my life. And so I went back to university. So first I went to Hillsborough Community College in Tampa, where I was living at the time. And after I got my associates, I got accepted into the LPT program at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. University of Pennsylvania was one of the most defining points in my life. From the professors to the people, it kind of helped build a foundation for what I wanted to do, even though it took me a little bit to get to that point. At first, I was a molecular biology genetics major because I wanted to work with allergies. Then I went into English because I wanted to be the transition person between helping to take the science and explain it to non-science people. And then eventually I settled into history because I've always loved history, but also I think history gives you a sense of where you've been, or your place in the world, and then also where you're going in the future. And it's also really important for being able to look at things in the past and look at those primary sources and be able to say things like this is what happened. So after graduating from UPenn, I had to decide what to do. And at first I thought I was going to be a university professor, but I was teaching English to non-native speakers online at the time. And while I did have some older students, most of my students were younger. And what I came to appreciate while I was teaching was the wonder in new students' eyes when they learned something and how it opened up new things for them. And I really wanted to give that experience to others. I wanted to get students to love learning the way that I loved learning, the way that I still love to learn. And you can't do that so much at university. You'll get the students who already love to learn, but really to get a broader sense, I wanted to go and become a primary school teacher. So first I was going to go back to Japan, but then after talking to a dear friend of mine who is Vietnamese, I decided to come to Vietnam, and I got involved in a teacher training course and became a teacher at a learning center in Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City. And I was there for about 2 years. And then while I was there, I met my wife. And then last year, I moved to Vinh in Nghệ An, which is a province in the north central of Vietnam. And this is pretty much where I'm planning to stay for the rest of my life. So that brings me to why did I decide to do the social media? Well, when I was first starting to learn the language, learn the culture, of course I would ask my friend a lot of questions, but it wasn't at that time where I was like, oh, I'm going to start social media. It wasn't until I moved here that I really started thinking about doing social media. I mean, the reason is that if you're trying to learn like the language for like Vietnamese in southern Vietnam, or if you're trying to learn the language in northern Vietnam, like Hanoi, there's lots of resources. You can go online and find tons and tons of resources. But here in central Vietnam, there's not a lot of resources online to learn Central Vietnamese. And so I found that, most of what I've been learning has been, Southern Vietnamese, but then my wife has been helping correct me. I did find a tutor for a while who was really, really amazing and helped me. And I found her on italki, which was really great. And she helped me with a lot of the Central Vietnamese terms, things that like family members would say, and I would just kind of look at them like, what is that? So those are things that I want to kind of help other people who maybe want to learn a different dialect, or maybe they're planning to come to Central Vietnam and they can't find resources. So that's what I'm here. I want to kind of help share the things that I've learned, while also, I'm still learning. I'm far from being fluent in Vietnamese. I'm working on it every day. So I'm planning to share videos of me using the Drops app, which I'm really loving. Maybe someday I'll get a sponsorship from the Plan B Labs guys, because they've put out a really great product. It really helps you with vocabulary in Vietnamese, but it is primarily Southern Vietnamese. But my wife does help me with like words. And when we talk, a lot of times, like I understand the gist of things, but sometimes we have to go to Google Translate. And using Google Translate has helped me also pick up some things. So it's not like Google Translate's horrible. It's convenient. But eventually we want to get to the point where, she and I can talk without me having to use Google Translate. So that's one part of why I wanted to do it. The other part is, again, as far as things for Central Vietnam go, there's not a lot. If you want to watch food videos, there's lots of stuff for Southern Vietnam. There's a lot of stuff for Northern Vietnam. Not as much for Central Vietnam. Now, of course, like popular places like Da Nang, you'll have a lot. Other places like Da Lat, you can get some of those in those popular tourist places. But places in like Central Vietnam, like Vinh, you're not really going to see a lot, or at least I haven't found a lot of videos talking about life, culture, things like that. And so I wanted to give people a sense of what it's like to live in a Central Vietnam as a foreigner, and then living with, a Vietnamese family. So that's really kind of why I wanted to do the social media. A little bit it's to help, get me focused and, learning my Vietnamese every day, but it's also to share things with you guys, people who are learning, like I said, to love the language. They want to know the culture, about travel, food, but especially also my family. I know my family hasn't seen me for at least 3 or 4 years now, partly because of the coronavirus, but also because, I'm kind of always gone. But family's really important here in Vietnam. And so I wanted to do something where my family could still feel like they're in touch with me. And so this is for me a little bit, but it's mostly for everybody. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you come back and you can learn some things and enjoy some things. So, hẹn gặp lại. See you later.